You can love someone with every part of you, and still end up standing in the quiet wreckage of another conversation that went wrong. It happens in the soft hours of the evening, when the world finally gives both of you a moment to breathe. You see the tension forming around her eyes, the heaviness she tries to swallow before it spills out. And you feel that familiar tightening in your own chest, an instinct that whispers, "Fix it. Save her from whatever this is." So you try. You reach for reason, for clarity, for the clean logic you've trusted your entire life. It feels like the most loving thing you can offer. Yet somehow, impossibly, every sentence you speak seems to pull the two of you further apart. She reacts as if your solutions are small, cold things. You raise your voice a little without meaning to. She raises hers without wanting to. And then both of you fall silent, the room thick with a sadness that neither knows how to name. That sadness comes with its own sting. A man can feel powerless in those moments, stripped bare of every strength he thought made him a good partner. You walk away with a heat behind your rib-spart frustration, part confusion, part fear that maybe you're failing someone you love. She walks away feeling alone in the very relationship that's supposed to hold her. It hurts both sides differently, but it hurts all the same. What makes this so heartbreaking is that the intention is pure. You're not trying to shut her down. You're trying to help. You're trying to be the kind of man who protects, who steadies, who solves. Yet for her, it feels like an emotional abandonment, like you're stepping around her pain instead of standing in it with her. And to her, that can feel like a small betrayal. This is the trap. This is the quiet battlefield where countless couples lose each other without ever meaning to. He thinks he's doing the right thing. She feels he's doing the opposite. He wants to bring her back to calm. She wants someone willing to enter her storm for a moment. He thinks the fastest way out of the hurt is to fix it. She thinks the fastest way out is to feel it, with him right beside her. It's not that men don't feel deeply. They do. They feel sorrow and frustration and longing just as sharply. But from a young age, boys learn to fear their own emotions. Anger becomes the only acceptable one, because it looks like control. Sadness becomes something hidden behind a locked jaw. Fear is disguised as silence. Vulnerability is folded away like a letter never meant to be opened. So when a woman brings him her raw emotion, fear, disappointment, hurt, it touches something he never learned how to sit with. His instinct is to neutralize it, manage it, tidy it into logic, the way you switch off a smoke alarm so the noise stops flooding the room. But a woman's emotional world doesn't work like that. Her feelings don't rise to be solved, they rise to be shared.
And this difference, this small but powerful divergence, can turn two people who love each other deeply into strangers drifting in opposite directions inside the same house. Sometimes the misunderstanding shows itself in subtle ways. She tells you she's overwhelmed by her day, and you tell her how she could plan it better tomorrow. She says she feels unappreciated, and you explain why that isn't true. She cries, and you tell her there's nothing to cry about. These responses seem kind, even practical, but to her they sound like, "Your emotion is wrong. It's not what you mean, but it's what she feels." Other times it explodes. She's upset, the intensity grows, your patience thins, and suddenly two people who adore each other are raising voices, slamming doors, or falling into a cold silence sharp enough to cut through the air. Afterward, both of you replay the moment alone. She questions whether you care. You question why nothing you do seems to be enough. If you've ever stood in that place, jaw tight, heart aching, unsure how something so small became something so big, you are not alone. Far more men than you realize know that exact feeling, and far more women than you imagine carry the ache of feeling unseen by a partner who genuinely loves them. The truth is both deeply painful and deeply hopeful.
The problem isn't a lack of love, it's a lack of understanding. Not because men are incapable of understanding women, but because no one ever teaches men the emotional language women speak. You were taught to fix what's broken. You were never taught what to do when nothing is broken, when all she wants is for you to step into her emotional world without trying to rearrange it. But here is where something quietly beautiful begins. The moment you stop assuming her emotions are threats to be shut down and start seeing them as invitations to closeness, everything shifts. The frustration softens, the arguments shrink, the connection grows. She feels safer. You feel steadier. The relationship becomes less like a battlefield and more like a landscape you move across together. Every man has the capacity to bridge that emotional distance. Every woman has the capacity to meet him halfway once she feels understood. What feels impossible now is not only teachable, it's transformable. And once you learn how to navigate her emotional storms, you will discover that they were never storms meant to drown you. They were waves meant to bring you closer. That is where our journey begins. Not with blame, not with shame, but with the quiet, powerful truth that understanding her emotions is not about giving up your strength. It's about learning how to use that strength in a way that finally reaches her. There's a moment every man remembers, even if he doesn't talk about it. It's the moment he's looking at the woman he loves and thinking, why is she reacting this way? Why does something so small hurt her so deeply? Why can't she just calm down so we can talk like adults?
The questions feel innocent, even reasonable. But to her, those questions, unspoken but visible in your eye scan, feel like tiny cracks forming beneath her feet. Understanding what happens inside her when emotions rise isn't about labeling women as emotional. It's about finally seeing the invisible architecture that shapes her inner world. And once you see it, the confusion that used to send both of you into spirals begins to fade. Her emotional system isn't a malfunction of logic. It's a finely tuned design, one crafted by biology, shaped by culture, and fueled by a different kind of intelligence that men are rarely taught to recognize. Think about biology first, not as a scientific lecture, but as something human and felt. A woman's brain is wired to be more responsive to emotional signals. It's not weakness, it's sensitivity. When she enters a room, she doesn't just see faces. She reads micro-expressions, senses shifts in tone, picks up on tension others overlook. It's why she notices when you're quiet before you've said a word. It's why she can tell when something is wrong, even though you've rehearsed your "I'm fine." Her biology draws her closer to connection, not away from it. The hormones that shape her emotional world, oxytocin, estrogen, is feeling to bonding. Emotions are not noise to her, they're information. They're not interruptions, they're signals. And when those signals rise, she moves toward the people she trusts, hoping those people will move toward her too. Now layer culture on top of that. From childhood, boys and girls are handed two entirely different emotional toolkits. While boys hear, "Be strong," girls hear, "Be caring." Boys are praised for independence, girls for sensitivity. Boys are encouraged to harden, girls to soften. A girl crying is comforted. A boy crying is often told to collect himself. A girl expressing fear is hugged. A boy expressing fear is told to toughen up. These messages sink deep. They don't just shape behavior, they shape identity. They create a world where men feel safer offering solutions than feelings. Because solutions feel like control. And women feel safer offering feelings than solutions, because feelings feel like truth. By the time two adults meet, they're not just coming together as lovers. They're coming together as two products of two emotional cultures. Cultures that often contradict each other. Picture this. She comes home hurt, and she tells you about something someone said. Her emotions spill out faster than she expects. She's not asking for repair. She's asking to be understood. She's speaking her native emotional language, a language built on expression. But you hear all those feelings as instability, as something rising too quickly, with no clear direction. You search for the straight line in her story. She wants you to hear the shape of it. You look for logic. She looks for resonance. And this is where emotional logic enters, the third layer, the one most men never learn to interpret.
Emotional logic isn't irrational. It just doesn't follow the same sequence men are conditioned to rely on. For men, logic often precedes emotion. Think first, feel second. For women, emotion often carries the meaning. Feel first, understand through feeling. When she says, "I felt ignored when you didn't text me back," she's not accusing you of wrongdoing. She's expressing the emotional interpretation before the rational one forms. To her, that's honest. To you, it might feel like blame. But emotional logic isn't about facts, it's about inner experience. This difference, tiny yet enormous, is why so many couples fall into conflict. You hear her emotions as exaggeration. She hears your logic as distance. You see the problem that needs solving. She sees the pain that needs holding. You want clarity. She wants connection. Both of you want peace, but you're walking two paths that never intersect. This is also why her emotions rise more quickly than yours. Her brain ties emotional safety to relational cues. She feels loved when you're present, attentive, steady. She feels unsafe, not unloved, just unsafe when you withdraw into silence, or explain too quickly, or turn toward logic before turning toward her. Her emotions rise to pull you back into closeness, not to push you away. When she cries, it's often not because of the moment itself. It's because the moment reminds her of something deeper, past disappointments, fears she never voiced, loneliness she pretended she didn't notice. Those layers surface all at once, and the feeling becomes larger than the event. You see her tears as too much. She sees them as the truth breaking through. You felt your own version of this, even if you don't frame it the same way. That pressure in your chest when you think you're failing her. That quiet anger when you feel misunderstood. That dread when conflict rises because you fear being the reason she hurts. Men have emotional waves too. They just come with different names, different masks, different exits. But she doesn't want you to drown in her feelings. She doesn't want you to fix them. She wants something much simpler, the sense that when she opens her emotional world, you won't turn away. The sense that her feelings land somewhere soft rather than somewhere cold. The moment you understand this, something powerful happens. Her reactions stop feeling unpredictable. Her intensity stops feeling personal. Her tears stop feeling like accusations. You start to see the emotional rhythm beneath her words, the meaning beneath her reactions, the longing beneath her fear. And in that understanding, something inside you softens, not into weakness, but into clarity. The feeling of anger eases. The confusion quiets. The frustration melts into a strange tenderness, a tenderness that feels like strength instead of betrayal. Because now you're not standing in front of her emotions trying to fight them. You're standing beside her emotions trying to understand them. And that changes everything. Especially the way she looks at you when you do. There is a moment in every man's life when he realizes that loving a woman is not the hard part. The hard part is knowing how to hold her heart when it trembles. Men grow up believing strength means fixing what's broken, calming what's chaotic, stabilizing what's shaky. Yet in the emotional world of a woman, none of that works unless something else comes first. It begins with learning a new kind of presence, one that doesn't rush, one that doesn't defend, one that doesn't try to rewrite how she feels. A presence that listens before it answers and understands before it explains. This is where the first key comes alive. Validation isn't agreement. It isn't surrender. It isn't you admitting fault when you did nothing wrong. It is something much deeper. The gift of letting her emotional world land safely inside yours. When you validate her, you become a soft place for her feelings to rest instead of a wall they crash against. She says she feels overwhelmed, and instead of telling her she shouldn't, you let her know you see the weight she's carrying. She whispers that she feels unimportant, and instead of arguing that she's wrong, you acknowledge the ache behind her words. Something almost magical happens when you do this. The fire in her chest softens. The tension loosens its grip. Her breathing changes. It's as if her nervous system has been waiting for you to say, "Your feelings matter to me." That sentence, spoken sincerely in your tone and not just your words, becomes the key that turns the lock inside her. Most men don't realize how powerful this is because they've never been taught the emotional geography of a woman's heart. They believe logic heals wounds, but in truth, it is emotional safety that does the healing. A woman who feels understood becomes a woman who trusts, and a woman who trusts becomes a woman who opens. That opening is where love deepens. But validation alone isn't enough, because emotions don't appear as single moments. They come as waves. A woman's emotional wave is not irrational. It follows a rhythm. It rises when something inside her is triggered. It crests when the feeling becomes too large to contain, and it recedes only when it has been fully expressed. Many men panic at the rising phase, frustrated at the crest, and exhausted before the fall ever arrives. Imagine standing on a shoreline as a wave rushes toward you. The instinct is to brace, stiffen, resist. But resisting the wave doesn't stop it. It only knocks you off balance. Women feel that imbalance in their partners all the time. They sense the tightening in your shoulders, the shift in your tone, the way you look away as if hoping the moment will pass faster. They feel the pullback before you even know you're doing it. The wave is not your enemy. It is her emotional truth trying to find air. When it rises, she searches for your presence to cling to not, because she wants to overwhelm you, but because she wants reassurance that you won't disappear in the middle of her fear. So when you breathe instead of retreat, when you soften your eyes instead of harden your voice, when you stay grounded instead of escalating, she feels something she rarely feels in the presence of anyone else: safety. Women remember safety the way men remember respect. It shapes how they love. And at the crest, when her voice is louder or her tears come faster than either of you expected, she is not trying to blame you. She is trying to release what her body can no longer hold. The crest is the peak of vulnerability disguised as intensity. If you stay calm, not cold, not detached, but calm in a human way, she feels less alone in the storm. She starts to hear herself again. The intensity softens. The wave begins its descent. When a man learns how to stand steady through her emotional wave, she feels like she is loved not only on her good days, but on the days she fears she is too much. That is the deepest intimacy she can experience. But even then, there is a third layer, a deeper strength she longs for: the lighthouse. The lighthouse is not a rescuer, nor is it a lifeboat tossed around by the same storm. It is the unwavering presence that tells her without words, "I am here. I am steady. Your emotions do not frighten me." A man becomes a lighthouse when he has mastered his own inner storms enough to stay grounded while she moves through hers. A woman who loves deeply knows the difference between a man who is silent because he is calm and a man who is silent because he is shutting down. One gives her safety. The other gives her abandonment dressed as stillness. She feels the difference in her bones. The lighthouse is born when you stop seeing her emotion as a threat and start seeing it as a call. Not a call for you to fix, but a call for you to stand with her. It shows itself in the way you breathe through tension instead of exploding. It reveals itself in the way you hold a boundary without raising your voice. It shines brightest when her anger, sadness, or fear peaks and you remain yourself instead of becoming the storm. Many men fear that if they soften, they will lose themselves. But the lighthouse is not softness. It is strength wrapped in warmth. It is leadership without dominance, steadiness without suppression, courage without combat. Women do not fall in love with perfection. They fall in love with presence. And the lighthouse is the highest form of presence a man can offer. When you combine these three forms of emotional mastery, validation, wave reading, and lighthouse steadiness, you give a woman something rare in this world. A love that feels like understanding instead of correction, closeness instead of conflict, partnership instead of performance. And as she feels this, something shifts inside her too. The storms come less violently. The misunderstandings shrink. She speaks more gently because she no longer fears disappearing inside her own feelings. She trusts the space between you again. What emerges from these three keys is not just harmony, but a deeper version of love. One where both people feel seen, held, and safe to be their truest selves. There is a quiet world inside every woman that most men never seen, not because she hides it, but because she has learned, over time, that few people know how to enter it gently. This world isn't dramatic or fragile. It's layered, alive, and sensitive in a way that startles even her. She carries memories in places she can't always explain, feels things before she fully understands them, and reacts from instincts shaped by years of loving, losing, hoping, and rebuilding. To understand her emotions, you have to walk into that world the way you'd walk into a room filled with soft lights, slowly, with your shoulders lowered, leaving your weapons at the door. Because inside her, everything means something. A tone, a pause, a forgotten text, the way your attention shifts when she needs you most. These tiny, ordinary moments land on her skin like weather she can't ignore. When she says she's afraid of losing you, she rarely means the literal fear of you leaving. It's the fear of becoming invisible to you, the fear of becoming an afterthought in a life where she once felt like the center. She is not afraid of abandonment in the dramatic sense. She is afraid of emotional distance, those quiet inches that grow between two people long before they notice. Her world is full of echoes. Something you say today might stir an old memory that still sits tender inside her. A raised voice may remind her of a time she felt unsafe. A long silence may remind her of someone who never came back. But she rarely tells you these connections, because they move too fast even for her to name. She doesn't want to burden you with her past, so she holds the pieces herself. What you feel is overreaction is often her mind protecting her heart before she can articulate why. There are also the softer fears, the ones that feel small but carve deep. The fear of being too emotional, too sensitive, too complicated. The fear that no matter how patient you seem, one day you'll decide she's too much. These fears don't come from insecurity. They come from experience. Women learn early that their feelings can overwhelm the people they love. They learn to shrink, to apologize for crying, to hold themselves together even when life pulls them apart. So when she lets her emotions rise in front of you, she is not losing control. She is trusting you. If you've ever noticed that she cries in moments that don't look like they deserve tears, know that the tears are often not about the moment. They are about everything the moment touches. A small disappointment may awaken a quiet sadness she buried months ago. A brief argument may remind her of all the times she felt unheard long before you entered her life. Her inner world is a river where present and past meet without warning. Sometimes that river floods, not because she wants it to, but because it's how she processes the weight she carries. Yet inside that same world, there is also astonishing tenderness. The way her eyes soften when you let her speak without interrupting. The way her voice lowers when she senses you're overwhelmed too. The way she notices the exhaustion under your silence, even when you try to hide it. A woman's emotional sensitivity is not just about feeling deeply. It is also about perceiving deeply. It's why you can sit in the same room, saying nothing, and she will still sense the thoughts you haven't spoken. Sometimes she wishes she didn't feel so much. Other times, she wonders how people survive without feeling as deeply as she does. But most of the time, she simply hopes you will understand that her emotions are not chaos. They are communication. They are not demands. They are invitations. Not every tear asks for comfort. Not every fear asks for reassurance. Sometimes she simply wants to be witnessed, to feel that her inner world doesn't have to stay hidden to be loved. What she rarely says out loud is that her toughest moments come with shame. Shame for being overwhelmed. Shame for needing comfort. Shame for being affected by things you seem to move through easily. She envies your ability to detach, to compartmentalize, to shut doors inside your mind. She wishes she could flip a switch the way you do. But her mind does not have switches. It has windows, always open, always sensing. She doesn't want you to fix every window. She wants you to sit with her beside one of them long enough for her to breathe again. A woman who feels seen in her inner world becomes a different woman, softer, calmer, braver. She stops guarding herself. She speaks with clarity instead of panic. She trusts you to hear her the first time instead of raising her voice in fear of being dismissed.
Emotional safety transforms her expressive intensity into vulnerability. And vulnerability is where love deepens. There is something else she rarely admits. She watches how you respond to her emotions to understand how much she matters to you. Not because she doubts your love, but because emotional presence is the language she understands love through. When you stay steady during her fear, she feels valued. When you listen during her anger, she feels protected. When you soften your voice during her sadness, she feels cherished. These are not dramatic moments. They are the quiet ones that shape the blueprint of intimacy. If you could step inside her inner world for just one day, you would discover how often her emotion is simply her heart trying to get closer to you. She is not trying to overwhelm you. She is trying to reach you. She is trying to understand you. She is trying to build a home between your world and hers. And when she feels you leaning in, even slightly, when she sees the shift in your eyes, the softening in your voice, the stillness in your posture, her entire inner world exhales. It is in that exhale where connection happens, where misunderstandings dissolve, where love becomes something steadier than passion and deeper than logic. She doesn't need perfection. She doesn't need answers. She doesn't need you to match her emotions. She needs something much simpler. Your willingness to meet her halfway into the world she never fully shows anyone else. When you do, she will give you something far more valuable in return, her truest self, unguarded, unhidden, and entirely yours. There comes a point in every relationship where something must either break or break open. For many couples, that moment arrives quietly, disguised as one more argument, one more misunderstanding, one more evening ending with two people lying inches apart, yet feeling miles away. But for a few, that moment becomes the turning point, the place where everything changes because one of them chooses to do something different. Evan never imagined he would be that person. He was logical, efficient,
The kind of man who believed that emotions were storms you waited out, not weather you stepped into. He loved Maya with a depth he rarely spoke aloud, but he often found himself staring at her tears or anger or silence, as if they were puzzles missing half the pieces. Each time she became emotional, he felt that old rush of helplessness, the pressure to fix what she was feeling before it swallowed them both. One night, however, their familiar pattern fell apart in a way that neither could ignore. Maya had come home quiet, too quiet. And when Evan asked what was wrong, her response came out sharp and trembling. She told him she felt alone even in the same room with him. She said she didn't feel held, didn't feel understood, didn't feel like her emotions mattered. Her voice cracked on the last word, and for the first time, Evan felt a flicker of something beyond frustration. Fear. Not fear of her emotions, but fear of losing the woman standing in front of him without ever really seeing her. It would have been easy for him to react the way he always did, to explain, defend, justify, to say, "That's not true," or "You're being dramatic," or "I'm doing my best." Those words perched on his tongue like impatient birds, but something in her eyes, some mixture of sadness and exhaustion, stopped him. He felt a heaviness inside his ribs, a feeling that whispered, "If you say the same thing again, you will get the same ending again." And he was suddenly so tired of endings. So he did something he had never done before. He sat down. Not in defeat, but in presence. He breathed slowly, as if he were anchoring himself to the floor. And when he looked at her, his face no longer carried the tightness of defense. His voice softened. He didn't try to correct her feelings. He let them land. He said, "I don't want you to feel alone. I want to understand what's happening inside you. Help me see it." Maya froze, not dramatically, not theatrically, but in the subtle way a person stops when they feel something shift in the room. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she searched his eyes, trying to figure out if this was another moment where her vulnerability would be dismissed. And for the first time in their 3 years together, she saw something new behind his gaze. Quiet courage. The conversation that followed wasn't perfect. She cried hard. He listened hard. She spoke her fears without trying to sound reasonable. He stayed steady without trying to sound wise. There were moments where he still felt the urge to fix her pain, moments where frustration threatened to return. But each time it rose, he let it pass through him instead of out of him. He became the lighthouse he never knew he could bestill, warm, unwavering. At one point, she whispered through tears, "I'm scared you'll leave if I'm too much." He felt something break open inside him, not anger, but grief. Grief that the woman he loved had been carrying that fear alone. Grief that his silence, meant to avoid conflict, had taught her she wasn't safe expressing herself. Grief that he had spent so long trying to protect himself from emotion that he had never realized how much she needed protection within her emotion. He took her hand, not tightly, but with the kind of gentleness that doesn't demand anything back. "I'm not going anywhere," he said. "Not when you're soft, not when you're scared, not when you're overwhelmed. I want all of you, not just the parts that are easy." The look she gave him then wasn't gratitude, it was recognition. She recognized the man she always hoped he could be, not because she wanted to change him, but because she wanted to meet the parts of him he kept hidden even from himself. After that night, things didn't transform instantly. Real change rarely comes in a single moment. It comes in the quiet repetition of new choices. Evan learned to pause before reacting, to listen before analyzing, to breathe before defending. Maya learned to trust the space he was creating, to speak softer because she no longer feared disappearing, to let her guard down without waiting for the impact of emotional rejection. The storms still came, but they were different now. They didn't end in slammed doors or cold silences. They ended in two people sitting side by side on the edge of the bed, letting the last waves of emotion settle in the soft dark between them. And one evening, months later, Maya told him something she had never said before. They were lying together on the couch, her head resting on his chest, the television playing quietly in the background. She traced a finger along his arm and whispered, "You make me feel safe in places I didn't know I needed safety." That sentence filled him with a warmth that didn't feel like pride. It felt like purpose. Understanding her emotions had not made him weaker. It had made him stronger in a way he never expected. It had given him a new kind of masculinity, one that didn't rely on armor or silence, but on presence and steadiness. It had given her a new kind of love, one that didn't rely on fear or guessing, but on trust and openness. And in that transformation, something extraordinary happened. They began to see each other clearly, not as versions shaped by past wounds or old habits, but as two humans capable of holding depth without drowning in it. Love, he realized, isn't built in the peaceful moments. It's built in the storms, when your instinct is to run, but you stay. When your reflex is to fix, but you feel. When your fear says close, but your heart chooses open. And in choosing to understand her, he finally understood himself.